It's Tuesday, March 31st, 2020. These markets, they are so fake, aren't they? I mean, I think anybody watching this video today, at least 98 to 99% of the people watching this video today will all admit that these markets are 100% fake. So many downgrades in this economy, yet zero upgrades in this economy. People continue to get sick, millions of people losing their jobs, yet the Dow Jones was up around 700 points yesterday and down only 400 points today. And I say only because the Dow Jones should have been down easily a couple thousand points today. It should have been down a couple thousand points yesterday. The Dow Jones should be well under 10,000 points right now as I make this video, but it's not, because these markets are so fake and they're being propped up with the stimulus package. A stimulus package where 90% of this money is going to go to big business, big corporations, and big banks, and they're going to throw some crumbs at you and I. 350 billion out of the 2.2 trillion going to go to small business. Yet, small business is calling their banks today, and the banks have not been informed by the government about any of the stimulus, about any of this aid to small business. We have people calling the unemployment offices all around this country hundreds of times, cannot get through, so they cannot get help. So small business, people of America don't know where the help is or when it's going to get here. Your check should be here in about 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks. But by then, what is $1,200 going to do for most people here in America? So I read a couple articles over the last 2 days, and I want to share them with you. The economic depression of 2020, many of the restaurants, bars, and retailers that have closed will never reopen. No doubt about it. Many of these stores that you drive by that are closed, the restaurants, the mom and pop restaurants and bars, they're not coming back. Many of them will not. Many small businesses were just barely scraping by before all this happened. And now with this infection and the U.S. economy frozen, most of small business in America, most of it is going to be devastated. Much of it is not going to be coming back when things reopen. And that is really a sad state of affairs. You know, it's the backbone of America. It's the lifeline of America, small business, the small mom and pop retailers, the small mom and pop restaurants. You know what we're going to be left with? We're going to be left with Targets and Walmarts and Costco's, Taco Bell's, Burger King, Jack in the Box, McDonald's. That's what we're going to be left with. We're not going to have too many options of where we shop pretty soon because it's all going to be put out of business. YahooFinance.com, Goldman Sachs sees 34% plunge in U.S. GDP and unemployment to soar to 15%. I think that's a very mild number. I think the unemployment numbers are going to surge way beyond that. But just take a look at the GDP. They're forecasting a 34% in U.S. GDP. Yet, how could the Dow Jones be up 700 points yesterday? How could it be down only 400 points today? Who would possibly be in these markets right now today? Oh yeah, it's the Fed that's in these markets. It's the Fed. Because Goldman Sachs says GDP is going to plunge to 34% and unemployment to 15%. I think those unemployment numbers are going to be minimal, 30%, quite possibly as high as 50%. Yet the markets ignore reality. These markets should be so devastated right now. Dow Jones should be well under 10,000 points right now, without a doubt. But it's not, because it's all about stimulus. It's all about helicopter money. It's all about quantitative easing. It's all about repo injections, 0% interest rates. It's all about the bailout of corporate America and the banks. And that's the only reason it's still standing today. But I'm telling you, what they're doing is going to do so much harm to the financial institutions and to this economy, because they are going to create massive hyperinflation. What they're doing is not going to work. CNBC Job losses could total 47 million. Unemployment rate may hit 32%. Fed estimates. This is on CNBC yesterday. Yesterday, this was on CNBC, yet Dow Jones was up 700 points. Major consequences are coming to America, ladies and gentlemen. The wealth transfer that we are about to see is going to be historical. No doubt about it. There is going to be a transfer of wealth. You know, just think about the person right now whose retirement's been wiped out, whose businesses are closed. Say they're 60, 65, 70 years old. They're going to be working until the day they die. They've lost everything, their retirement, their business, everything. Their way of living, their lifestyle is changing right now as I make this video. When we have this kind of unemployment, when we have these kind of losses, crime is coming. We are going to see surges in crime here in America without a doubt, because of desperation, because of hunger, people being angry. We're going to see crime. People are going to lash out. There's no doubt in my mind that America and the people of America are going to be brought to their knees, because this is going to be the greatest depression we have ever seen. And you know, talking to some small business owners over the last couple days, talking to my friends, people have really got to be getting worried right now, because they're falling behind. They're falling behind with their car payments, their house payments. People that have small businesses have got to make leases on those buildings. They can't do it. And they don't have an answer. They're calling their bank, and their bank doesn't have an answer yet, because the banks haven't heard anything from the government about the stimulus, about how it's all going to be set up, how these loans are going to be made, how these grants are going to be done. Nobody knows. And we're going, what, 3-4 weeks into this now, and nobody knows. But what we do know is that the small business owner, the American citizen, we're all going broke, and the help hasn't arrived. And is it really going to be enough when it gets here? It's not. A lot of this isn't coming back to America. A lot of people are going to be wiped out. A lot of people are going to be filing bankruptcy. People are going to be committing suicide. People are going to be getting divorces. People are going to be losing their businesses. They're going to lose their houses. The repo man is going to be repoing a lot of cars. It's going to get really, really ugly here. And just think, we're about, what, 3 weeks into this? It's just beginning. Consumer confidence tumbles to 13-month low as hope plunges. For the month of March, the Conference Board's Consumer Confidence Survey slumped to the lowest level since June of 2017, and it is going to go much lower. Dallas Fed Manufacturing Outlook for the month of March. The survey crashed like never before, from positive 1.2 in February to negative 70, massively below the negative 10 that was expected. This is the weakest level ever and the most aggressive collapse ever. Another bellwether of where we are at today and where we are heading. But we're only down 400 points today. I wonder why. It's amazing. I mean, look at these bellwethers, these canaries in the coal mine. If you're in these markets, you better be very, very careful. I don't know anybody who would be in these markets right now. They are so fake. And what is coming is going to be so devastating to the U.S. economy. And quite frankly, who cares what the stock market does? Because Main Street is getting absolutely destroyed. And they can put the markets wherever they want to put them. But the reality of it is, people are going broke. They're losing everything. They're losing their businesses. They're losing their retirements. They're losing their jobs. They're losing their futures, and they're losing faith in this system. Macy's to furlough most of 130,000 employees as stores stay shut down. Many of the Macy's stores, a good portion of them, are not going to reopen. 130,000 people, employees, are furloughed through May. Director level positions will receive pay cuts, and pay cuts are going to be coming to a lot of people throughout the country, as people working in other industries, other businesses are going to be asked to have their salaries cut. Otherwise, they're going to have to find another job. There's going to be massive cutbacks coming to America when this all gets put back together and people begin to go back to work. Many won't be going back to work, and many that do go back to work are going to be getting pay cuts. They will bring back employees. This is Macy's. They're going to bring back employees at a staggered basis as business resumes. So it's not like all of a sudden everybody's going to get called back into work. Maybe 25% of the employees will get called back in. Maybe 50% of employees will get called back in. It's not going to be 100%. What's going to happen when the unemployment runs out and people don't have a job to return to? Very concerning times coming to America. The reality is many are not going to have a job to come back to, and many won't have government subsidies to rely on when that day comes. And, you know, as I've spoken about relentlessly, it's homelessness and the homeless population that is exploding here in America. DailyMail.com, number of people attending the food bank at Los Angeles Skid Row triples in wake of this infection. As charities say, they are overwhelmed. Worse is yet to come. I've been down there. It's horrific. It doesn't even look like it's in the United States of America. It looks like it's from some third world country, but it's right here in America. So the food banks on Skid Row are now seeing triple the numbers. DailyMail.com also. Outrageous Vegas homeless are corralled into parking lot and made to sleep on the bare concrete boxed off areas less than 6 feet apart. This is really discerning how we're treating American citizens. And you know, I was out in Imperial County and talked to a couple of these homeless people out in the middle of the desert. And many of you saw that video. Thank you very much. A lot of positive comments on that video, but there was a few haters out there saying that these people deserve what they get. They're criminals, they're felons. You know, take a look at what's in Washington right now. If you want to talk about criminals and felons, don't talk about the homeless people out in Imperial County, California. Talk about your politicians in Washington, D.C., or maybe your politicians right here in California or right in the state you're watching this video from. Maybe those are the real criminals, not some homeless person who stole some food out of the grocery store to survive, or maybe stole a car, or, you know, robbed, you know, a 7-Eleven. You know, look, I'm not condoning these kind of activities, but we have people in Washington who are stealing millions or billions of dollars. Look at the people on Wall Street stealing from your pensions, stealing from your Social Security. The bankers, the politicians are the real criminals, not the person out in Imperial County living in a tent or in some little box. I mean, it's amazing how the haters just have to hate and attack somebody. Yet they sit on their couch eating a bag of cheese puffs, never doing anything, never having the answer for anything. Somebody accused me the other day of, you know, all this negativity, but not having the answer to anything. This person obviously doesn't watch the show. The answer is get off your lazy butt, get off the couch, put the bag of Doritos or cheese puffs down, okay? Put your Diet Coke down, get off your butt, and go hand some food out to some homeless people. Go hand some clothes out to some homeless people. Go hand some bottled water out to some homeless people. Do something. If you're able to do something, if you have more than somebody else, maybe you need to take a little bit of something and give it to somebody else who doesn't have that much. These are critical times here in America. And if we're not helping people who can't help themselves, God's going to ask you one day. God's going to judge you one day and ask you why you didn't help people when you could have. You know, I don't live in a mansion. I don't drive a Rolls Royce. I drive an old Toyota Camry, ladies and gentlemen. But, you know, I get off my butt every once in a while and I load up the car and I get the water, the food, and the clothes that I don't need, and I take them to people who can use them instead of just throwing it away. If you have canned foods that's getting older and you have no use for it, why throw it away? Go give it to some people who can use it. We have a fiduciary duty to take care of our people here in America because this government and our churches aren't doing it. So maybe we need to step up and do the right thing and take care of some people. Zero hedge today. I'm terrified. New York turns into a war zone as cities' emergency system faces overwhelming onslaught. The emergency system that people call, for the police and ambulances generally fields about 4,000 calls per day. This last Thursday, it was swamped when they received over 7,000 calls for police, paramedics, fire, all sorts of emergencies. Look, we're just beginning, okay? This is just the beginning. Ask yourself, if you cannot take care of yourself, if you're not self-sufficient, self-reliant, if you don't have your own security, if you're not your own central bank, there's no way you're going to rely on the system. The system is already melting down right now, and we're three weeks into this whole thing. We're being told now that this shutdown could last for months, maybe even a year. How in the world are most people going to survive this when they can barely even operate a microwave oven? Ask yourself. 7,000 calls on Thursday. What happens when that's 10,000, 12,000? They already can't handle it. Things are going to get worse. This is why it's so imperative that you are your own central bank, that you have your own security, that you're as self-sufficient as you possibly can be. The farther detached you are from the system, the better chance you have to survive this whole thing. What happens as state and local tax revenues crater? More problems. Another article on Zero Hedge. Businesses are going out of business. Businesses are shut down now. People aren't spending money. There's no sales tax. People can't pay their mortgages. So cities and municipalities are going to have less money. So what does that mean? It means that we're going to have less police, less firemen, less garbage collectors, less people working at the water district, and you're going to have 2 people working at the DMV. So the system is going to continue to slow down. We are literally melting down. So expect more crime. Expect when you call for an emergency because of a fire or a break-in, that nobody is probably going to show up for quite a while. And at some point, nobody's going to show up at all because they're going to be so inundated with emergencies, or these people are going to be staying home protecting their own families. As we know, many of these workers now, whether it's the fire department, police, whatever, they're getting infected and they're getting sick. And what happens when 20%, 25% of the police force or fire department is too sick to work? You're on your own. This is now a reality. People laughed about this stuff a year or 2 ago, never expecting something to fly out of left field like this, and now it's here. On top of this, this economic collapse is not going away. So we're going to be fighting this from all fronts. Wall Street Journal, U.S. oil prices dropped to lowest level since 2002. Another bellwether, a canary in the coal mine of this economy. The energy industry is going to get hammered. It's getting hammered right now. Yesterday, oil was down. I saw it as low as $19.54. Right now, it's around $20.30. Nobody's driving. Nobody's getting on planes. Nobody's getting on cruise lines. This is really going to really devastate the energy industry here in America. And then we look at freight. How much less freight is being shipped now? Big trouble. Big trouble continues to rock America, and it's going to get much, much more serious. Wall Street Journal also. Americans are acquiring cash at fastest pace since Y2K. You know, I'm all for having cash. I'm all about diversity. You gotta have assets. You gotta have gold, silver, cash. You know, even cryptos. Maybe some people are still in these markets. Look, I'm not telling anybody to sell everything they have in the markets and run for the hills. That's up to you. If you really have faith in paper right now, God bless you. But I do believe in diversity. You know, whether that's an art collection, whether that's land, whether that's a farm, diversity is key. But people who are just running all to cash, putting all their eggs in one basket, look, the next step or the next stop where this train goes is hyperinflation. And if you're just, you know, a one-trick pony, all cash, you're going to lose, because hyperinflation is coming and it's going to wipe your cash out. I do believe right now at this point you do have to have some cash, but at some point people are going to be doing whatever they can to unload cash to actually buy something with it, a real asset, because the cash is going to be worthless at some point. They are going to create hyperinflation unlike the world has ever seen right here in America. I mean, you cannot just be printing $2 trillion out of thin air whenever you like. You know, billions and billions of dollars a day going into repo injections, the Fed buying into the stock market, buying debts, buying bonds, buying airlines. I mean, this is ridiculous. No doubt the hyperinflation that we're going to see is going to wipe out what's left of the US dollar. It may be the strongest currency in the world, but take a look at how sick all these currencies are. You're comparing one sick puppy to a litter of sick puppies, and we have the least sickest puppy. But sooner or later, there's no cure, and unfortunately, the litter dies, then the last puppy dies. And that's just how it's going to happen. Hyperinflation's coming. It's going to kill off the US dollar. Zero hedge today. Retailers prepare for civil disturbance. Boarded up stores seen from Soho to Beverly Hills. Right here, 15 minutes from my house on El Paseo, the Louis Vuitton store has already been boarded up. And that store has been broken into, I think about 4 times in the last couple years. It is completely boarded up, top to bottom. And when you go out today, it's almost like a Mad Max scenario. You know, I'm driving down the freeway. I see little tent cities now popping up all along Interstate 10, individual tents scattered, little campgrounds of tents way out in the, you know, half mile off the freeway. You can see them out in the distance. And so I'm seeing people walking along the freeway with everything they own in a bag. I see tents off the freeway. I see people at the freeway exits standing there looking for $1. I see the Louis Vuitton store boarded up. I see all the stores closed. This is absolutely like the Twilight Zone. It's really unbelievable. CFTC quietly bails out Capital One. Most people probably didn't hear about that. The Commodity Futures Trading Commission had to provide relief to a large U.S. bank active in oil and gas. The bank was Capital One. Haven't heard one thing about this on the news. You know the commercials, what's in your wallet? Well, I can tell you this. Your money is safer in your wallet, not in Capital One. That's 100% truth. They made a terrible trade, a terrible bet via derivatives that oil would not plunge, and now it's at 18-year lows. Capital One's depositors are sitting on a ticking time bomb. And this is why I have such an issue with the banks. If you have a lot of money in the banks, be very, very cautious. I think this is one of the worst times you could be having a lot of money in the bank. If you have valuables, gems, gold, silver in a safety deposit box in a bank, I think that's a huge mistake. You need to have it where you can get to it. Do not rely on these banks being open when this thing implodes. That you are not going to get your cash, you are not going to get your gold or silver out of the bank. So, you know, get it out now. So you're going to sleep a lot better at night if you do. You know, a lot of people believe that they're going to be saved by the Fed, that the central bank's going to come in, print all this money, the government's going to come in with these stimulus packages, and everybody's going to be saved. I'm here to tell you that that's not going to work. And by printing dollars does not create wealth. It does the opposite. What they are doing right now is going to gut whatever wealth you have left. They are going to gut it. Okay? Printing dollars out of thin air destroys wealth, does not create it. They printed trillions during the last crisis, and here we are today with an even bigger crisis. Now the Fed is buying stocks, they're buying bonds, they're buying mortgages. The markets are addicted to the Fed. The housing sector is going to blow up next. There's absolutely no doubt in my mind. We're already starting to see what's happening in commercial real estate. Next stop is going to be housing. This housing bubble is long overdue. You're going to see the biggest collapse in housing, the biggest correction we have ever seen. Americans will be bailed out, right? You're going to get your $1,200 crumbs in the next few weeks. And we've got another stimulus package coming right behind it. So while all the businesses are shut down, while people can't go to work and make a living, you're going to get your $1,200 check here and there. But at what cost? That $1,200 is going to buy a lot less by the time you get it, because the amount of inflation, the hyperinflation that they're causing here in America, this is going to do damage that your children and grandchildren are going to feel. And while most people have no idea what's going on, while most people have just been conditioned and dumbed down, they just can't wait till baseball comes back and football comes back. Their futures, their retirements are being robbed right now today. Make sure that you just keep doing what you've been doing and preparing, because this is going to get a lot worse. We haven't seen anything yet, ladies and gentlemen. We're just a few weeks into this. Wait till the despair and the desperation come out. Wait till you start seeing floods of homeless people in your cities. Wait till your neighbors become homeless. Wait till you see people you knew sleeping, that you once knew, sleeping in tents because they didn't have any family to fall back onto. There's going to be people that you and I know that lose everything, that they're going to land up in tents. That's really going to happen. People you and I know that are going to be starving, that are broke, have no car, lost everything. Once had a nice house and a nice car, it's all gone. You know, we've been living in this illusion. We've been living this lie of leasing cars that we couldn't afford, buying houses we couldn't afford, eating at restaurants we couldn't afford, posting everything on social media, everybody wanting to be a big shot, everybody wanting to live this reality TV type stardom in their own lives. And people bought this hook, line, and sinker. And you know what? These people never prepared for a rainy day, had no assets, had no cash reserves, never thought anything bad was ever going to happen. And now we've got some really serious issues to deal with here in America. We've got this infection that continues to apparently be growing all over America, and this economic collapse that was unavoidable, that started last year, that actually started in 2008, but we started seeing the repo markets, the liquidity crisis taking place, and the repo injection starting, and that should have been the biggest warning right there that we had entered a new age. So a lot of people, most people, the masses, completely unprepared and naive for this day. The reckoning is knocking at the door, but if you think this is as bad as it gets, you're sadly mistaken. It's going to get much worse. It doesn't matter what happens to the stock market. Look what's happening to your neighbors, what's happening to people at your churches. Take a look at your cities, what's happening in your states. Everything is shut down. Industry and business is shut down. Nobody's even leaving their house. This is going to have dire consequences for years to come, and we've just begun. Be safe, be careful. Make sure that you're praying for America. Because every one of us, people ask, you know, what can I do? Well, at least the one thing you could do is pray for this country, that it doesn't fall. God bless every one of you. Talk to you very soon.